Part 74. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 732. The Lord of Thunder made a special trip to the royal capital. Only 20% of it was to meet the Queen, and 80% of it was to meet his dragon friends. To simply explain the current situation to the Queen and the nobles, there is really no need for a legendary mage to take action. It is enough to send a 17th or 18th level great magician. But after traveling all the way to the dragon clan and then coming back to give a lecture to a group of humans, I was not there to greet them. There's nothing left to do as a friend. Not to mention that the other party is a proud dragon. Even if it is a human being, there is no need to be friends. Now that he has received the other party and the mission is completed, the Lord of Thunder turns and leaves. Next, the mages of the Royal Mage Corps will naturally do the explanation, and mediation with the Queen and nobles. And all he has to do now is to accompany that chattering golden dragon. Hey, you can't believe what I found inside the volcano. That volcano actually spewed gold. Gold. If you hadn't urged me to come back, I would have lived there for a year and a half to get some gold. By the way, I actually recommend you to stay there for a while. Near the volcano and in the clouds, the elemental disturbances are very violent, and there are constant lightning and thunder. I flew up there for only a short time, and I was hit by more than a dozen lightning bolts. It is estimated that there will be more than a dozen lightning bolts every day. Tens of thousands of rounds. Hey, the way you control thunder and lightning is different from before. It's lighter and more rounded. Have you made any new discoveries recently? How did your little apprentice deceive the little princess of the Liuguang shining family? Tell me, it's idle, it's such a long journey. The Lord of Thunder really wanted to shut his mouth. Is this guy really a golden dragon? Is it really a golden dragon? When we first made friends, we couldn't have gone to the wrong dragon's nest at the beginning. This guy was actually a brass dragon, right? Gretel didn't know that there was a golden dragon that was obsessed with him and traveled thousands of miles to come and watch him. At this moment, he was bored in the mage tower, writing and calculating. The only solution to worries is research. Research must start from theory, then to animal experiments, and then to human experiments. So, how should an animal model of scoliosis be made? What kind of animal is used to make it, what size of animal is used to make it, and what is the specific method? I'm really not an orthopedic surgeon. Even if you have rotated in orthopedics, clinical treatment and medical research are two completely different things. This animal model is much more difficult than the previous animal model of patent ductus arteriosus. One again, cried Gretel. The dark gold skeleton given by His Excellency the Immortal, made by arcane magic, walked up to him and listened to his instructions. Gretel directly took command. Bend over, and bend down a little more. Okay, that's it, then bend your upper body to the left, twist your waist to the right, the chest will bulge. After struggling for a long time, I finally made it look like the left shoulder is high, the right shoulder is low, the chest is hunched, and the spine is severely scoliosis. Greed held his chin with his right hand and his left hand under his right elbow. He looked at it for a long time as if watching a film through a reader, and shook his head. How to build this 3D model? Onia King. Come with me. The dark gold skeleton straightened up. Following him to the highest level of the mage tower, he bent down again without Gretel's instructions. In some places, I couldn't bend properly, so I tried my best to twist my arms over, grabbed my spine and pulled it back and forth. Moss. Look at him like this, can you record it and make a virtual model that can rotate? Gretel asked, tailing directly. 2 rays of light were emitted from the tower spirit panel, scanning Wunkin from head to toe, and then from toe to head again, and answered hummingly. Not now, boss. It's better to have a wheel, let Onijin stand on it, and rotate evenly in one circle. The light shines from that side, and I receive it from this side, so that I can record the shape of his bones. Hey, isn't this the idea of CT? Moss's way of solving problems is exactly the same as mine. He is indeed my tower spirit. Greet decisively summoned the floating saucer. Onekin fell to the ground and stood up. Two invisible servants squatted below, one holding one side of the floating saucer. Spin, spin, spin slowly and evenly. Moss lit the light source on the other side of the floating dish and worked hard to record. After completing one rotation, it released a virtual image, and Greet pulled Onekin to compare. Well, I can't say they are very similar, I can only say they are exactly the same. 3D simulation, success. But if it is a real patient with such deformity, there is no way that the bones will not change. The intervertebral space on the concave side becomes narrower, the convex side widens, the vertebral epiphyseal plate on the concave side becomes thinner, the cortex and trabeculae thicken, and the convex side becomes thinner and thinner. These are all due changes. Coupled with the stretching of ligaments and muscles, as well as the pressure on the visceral system, there may be even more changes. Oniaki, stand still. He gave the order again. The dark gold skeleton stood up straight. Gretel pinched the far ends of his 8th and 9th ribs on the left with both hands, and squeezed, squeezed, squeezed. The ribs did not move at all, as if they were not under any pressure. Hey, the physical strength of a level 7 magician is completely inadequate in front of the high-level skeleton sent by the necromancy legend. Oniakim, please bring these two ribs together at the far end. Gretel ordered. The dark gold skeleton moved with each command, and the two ribs clicked together. Then, the spine didn't move at all, the other ribs didn't move at all. Hey, that's not the case. Gretel rolled his eyes and had to correct himself again. Alas, there's no way, he and Onijin haven't played too much, and this skeleton isn't smart enough. If you want to give full play to the subjective initiative of the skeleton, you still need a lot of training. You imagine that when you were still alive, all the bones were connected to your body. If the distal ends of these two ribs were brought together, what would happen to the other bones? The imagine command is a bit difficult for undead creatures. Fortunately, the instructions at the back were clearer. Aonyejin stretched out his hands, pinched the two ribs, and held them tightly. Then, the entire spine naturally curved to the left. Very good. The 12th and 13th ribs on the left side are also close together. Let me check the situation. The spine curves further to the left. Oniakim, suppose you are a child and grow into an adult with your ribs together. What will happen? The dark gold skeleton tilted his head and did not answer, as if this idea was beyond his ability. Greet turned around. Moss, can you simulate it? I'll give it a try, boss. Talling responded. As he spoke, he shot out a virtual image, an image that Gretel had inputted, with human skin, muscles, bones, and internal organs, and put 4 ribs together 2 by 2. Then, the virtual image gradually grows from a child. Gretel watched intently. Children grow from 7 or 8 years old, to 9 or 10 years old, to 11 or 12 years old. Just as the result was about to come out, the light and shadow suddenly got stuck and shook. Greet reached out to touch it, but the light and shadow shook even more violently, almost collapsing. Moss. There was a hint of trembling in Moss's flat voice. There is extremely strong energy approaching at high speed, repeated, there is extremely strong energy approaching at high speed, the energy attribute is unknown, repeated, the energy attribute is unknown. Did someone knock on the door? Are you from the glorious Holy See? Greet turned around suddenly. Outside the window of the mage tower, a blond man stood in the air, looking curiously at him, at the tower spirit, and at the dark gold skeleton next to him. Decker, is this really your student? Does it look like a necromancer? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to Etku Evian for the 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 733. The main entrance of the Master Tower is open, welcoming the teacher and guests. Greed stayed by the side, secretly looking at the teacher's face from time to time, and secretly beating in his heart. Teacher, please don't be angry. I'm really not a necromancy person. No, what I want to say is that I'm not studying necromancy, I'm just using it to make a 3D model. Who is that person next to the teacher? He starts to stir up trouble. He cursed silently, not daring to show any of it on his face. However, the blond man looked at him twice and suddenly grinned at him. Little guy, what bad things are you thinking about me? Gretel. I remember that endless ink pen is immune to mental spells. No, I remembered it wrong over time. It should be immune to mind control spells, not detection spells. Also, that guy might be deceived. Gretel's mind was spinning and she smiled slightly. When he was a resident doctor, he was asked by the chief director. He was obviously panicking to death, but he still had to hold on to calm down in front of the patient, and look directly at the patient, with nothing strange on his face. Just as he was about to speak, the Lord of Thunder suddenly coughed. Don't throw that detecting lies around. Gretel? These days, do you use detection spells to chat with people? He quickly gathered his thoughts and stopped thinking. The legendary mage arrived, and everyone in the mage tower quickly came out to see him. The Lord of Thunder sent them off with a casual glance, sat down directly in the living room with the blond man, and asked casually. What are you studying recently? Have learned shelter and are dismantling secret eye. Even without the threat of detecting lies, Gretel answered honestly. When he just came back, the teacher gave him a list of 15 or 6 magic spells. He had to master all of them, and some of them needed to be instantaneous. Fortunately, the teacher did not specify the order of study. His current progress should satisfy the teacher? Then what were you studying just now? The blond man asked with interest. Gretel looked at him again. Judging from his figure, this guest looked more like a high-level warrior, with bulging muscles in his chest and arms that almost burst his clothes. Judging from his appearance, he was wearing an orthodox mage's robe. No one except a spellcaster would wear this ankle-length robe. The cuffs of the purple robe were decorated with large swathes of pearls and small gems, making it look particularly luxurious. The blond man leaned lazily on the back of the chair and crossed his legs. His hand touched the hem of his robe, pulled off a gem, and casually threw it into his mouth. Crack! Gretel was stunned for a moment. What a gem! This is a gem. If you bite this bite, your teeth may not be as hard as gems. And your esophagus? Your stomach? Your gut? Are you sure you can really bear the fragments of the gem? Ah, that's not right. Anyone who can chew gems is not a human being at all, right? Starting from the characteristic of eating gems, we then think about the teacher's circle of friends, and then consider the high-level intelligent creatures that can transform into human form. This one is probably a dragon, right? It's hard to say which race of dragons it is. No, this is not the most important thing. What is important is, what is his relationship with Cyrilla? Greed calmed down and answered respectfully. A few days ago, a case of severe scoliosis was sent to me. It was a child. I hope to cure him and am studying treatment options. There was a light and shadow in his hand, which was exactly the image of the child with one shoulder high and one low, chicken-breasted and hunched back that he had seen in Mrs. Alva's place before. As soon as it was released, the blond man's eyes immediately focused and he looked at it carefully. Can this be cured? The image is peeled off layer by layer, From outside to inside, from skin to muscles, from muscles to bones. Greed pointed at the crooked spine and explained. Maybe it can be cured, but maybe, with my ability, I can't. With such a deformity, I can't say what the spinal cord and internal organs will look like. I just want to study it first. The blond man was silent for a moment. He put down his legs, squinted his eyes, and looked at Greed carefully up and down. It wasn't until he saw that Greed was a little fussy that he asked. How to treat it? If it's a bone, cut it off, lengthen it, and use magic to make it grow into the correct shape, Greed replied. He guided the silent phantom to continuously change, revealing the details of the spine. When it grows like this, every bone will definitely be deformed. For example, this one should be flat originally, but it grows into a triangle. Then the narrowed part must be allowed to grow back and grow into the shape it was originally supposed to have. Pointing to another piece. It has been deformed by pressure and is protruding outward. Then you need to use wrongures or magic to cut off the excess piece. Lift it up piece by piece, straighten it, and maybe rotate it to return it to its original shape. The way it should be. The blond man's eyes became more and more surprised. He blurted out. What about the muscles and ligaments that attach to bones? We can only calculate the force in advance. Gretel shook his head. After repairing the bones, make an orthosis, something like a frame, put on the outside of the patient's torso, forcing him to maintain his posture. Then, wait for the muscles and ligaments to slowly stretch. After a year and a half, he will be able to grow well. Compared with these, the spinal cord, nerves, and internal organs are more troublesome and require extra patience and careful handling. The blond man stared at the silent phantom in front of him, as if he wanted to make a hole in the light and shadow. After a long while, he let out a long sigh and enthusiastically extended his hand to greet. You are an interesting little mage, not bad. Come and meet me, I am Diamond Perry's Martin Skirlet, Golden Dragon. Nice to meet you. It's actually a dragon clan. It's actually a golden dragon. No wonder you eat gems like melon seeds. When it comes to love, you usually use these gems as snacks, right? Ruby can be consumed, but can pure alumina be consumed? If not, if someone points out the artificial ruby skill, do you want to use artificial ruby? There are also pearls. Do you want to eat artificially cultured pearls? Or do you dislike those things for stuffing your teeth? Gretel was thinking aimlessly and stretched out his hand to shake his hand. Gretel Nordmark. He shook his hand and was about to pull it back. Unexpectedly, Golden Dragon Diamond did not let go. Instead, he squeezed his hand hard and shook it up and down. I finally understand why little Princess Yuehui wants to play with you. Hey, those little guys at home, if they know how to treat illnesses and save people and abduct the little princess back, they will all come out to travel, right? Gretel shivered on the spot. Please do not. I don't want a bunch of golden dragons stuffed into Oak Grove Hospital. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. I have been following the naming technique of Night for the past 2 days, and I have caught up with the section on Rat Tide. I really can't bear to write about disasters, I can't bear to write about the vast distances across the land, the cries of the victims, the bloody sacrifices of the brave, and the nobility and despicability of human nature. Hold your head. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 734. The Golden Dragon Diamond. Greet strongly suspected that the name meant diamond, praised Greet and immediately changed the subject, asking about volcanoes and atmosphere and volcanic ash. With the teacher beside him, Greet naturally knew everything and said everything. He waved away the model of the spine, and the rotating earth once again appeared in his hand, with ocean currents surging and monsoons swirling. Diamond immediately came over and pointed at it. Your model of the continent is wrong. This is the outer bend, turn a little further, there is a mountain range here, 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 here. Gretel was revising it while memorizing it desperately, wishing he could copy it down on the spot. What's this? This is a satellite map. And it's the latest version. No matter whether someone from the parliament goes there to take risks, whether there is any military operation, or even if it is sold to allies, this is very valuable. Hey, I'm always afraid of missing something when I rely on my brain to memorize things. It would be nice if they were not in the living room, but on the top floor, with Moss listening. It would be too rude to summon Moss now. Greet glanced at the teacher quickly and felt slightly relieved when he saw the teacher was deep in thought and silent. The blue light on the edge of his monocle flashed. Very good, very good. Even if he can't remember it, the teacher can remember it. This topographic map is fixed. Following Diamond's instructions, he raised a volcano at a certain point in the Earth model, and then stimulated atmospheric circulation. At the beginning, it was a mushroom cloud. Hey, how do you know it's the shape? Yes, that's the right shape. It's slender at the bottom and spread out at the top, like a big mushroom. Bigger, bigger. Diamond, the golden dragon, was pointing and prodding at the side. The mushroom cloud, which was the size of a coin about several hundred kilometers in diameter when converted to the entire Earth's area, dispersed little by little. It became thinner, wider, and finally spread across the entire northern hemisphere, covering up the sky little by little and blocking large tracts of sunlight. Did you really think of this? Did you feel it? Diamond asked with great interest. Gretel hee. The volcanic eruption was what I felt when I was advancing. The volcanic ash blocked the sun and so on. It was calculated based on the prophecy of the legendary mage. These are all truths, even under the operation of detect lies. When talking to this golden dragon, you really have to be careful with every word you say. It would be embarrassing to be exposed. Then how do you make the land spherical? Why isn't it flat? Diamond asked with interest. In the yellow jade eyes, there is a seriousness of please tell me carefully, don't try to lie to me. Don't coax me, I'm not that easy to coax, I know everything. In this world, most intelligent creatures think that the earth is flat. Even your teacher, when he unfolded the terrain map in the palace, made a flat one. What did your teacher tell you? Still. Cold sweat broke out slightly on Greet's back. Seeing that the teacher didn't stop him, he forced himself to answer. It must be spherical. You see, when we stand on the beach and observe, we see the mast first, and then the ship. If the earth is flat, the mast and the ship must be seen together. You pass. Diamond muttered slightly, then asked. Then how do you know that the air flows like this? Because the earth is rotating, Gretel said, I take it for granted, I just know it. He adjusted the model and added some color to the atmosphere for easier observation. The earth is spherical, so if you want to distinguish between day and night, it must rotate. The solid spherical shape is rotating, and the gas cannot follow it so quickly, so the wind direction will come out, right? The golden dragon held its chin in thought. Greet stood opposite him and prayed secretly. But don't ask me why the Earth's axis has shifted, why it's not straight but diagonal. I really can't explain this. Then why doesn't the ash settle? Why doesn't it spread here until next year? Not this winter? Does the impact of the ash only last 1 year? Diamond looked at Gretel with a smile and asked questions like a barrage of questions. When the problem reached this point, Gretel spread his hands and could only put them in ruins. This, I guessed based on Mrs. Ender's prophecy. What a joke. there is a whole set of meteorological models for how volcanic ash enters the atmospheric circulation, how it moves, how it spreads, and how it settles. It's like a mountain apart. I have a master's degree in medicine, and you want me to do a job that even a few meteorology doctors can't do? Never. Fortunately, the teacher saved him in time. The Lord of Thunder joined in, standing shoulder to shoulder with Diamond, pointing and discussing. Large lists of data, formulas, and spell models flew out of their mouths one after another. I think the amount of volcanic ash that could float high into the sky in this explosion must be more than 10 million tons. No, 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 I think this number is still too small. You see, after I flew to the top, I flew 500 miles horizontally before flying out of the volcanic cloud. At this height, the weight of volcanic ash is not calculated this way. I think Taylor's formula is not easy to use here. McLaughlin's formula should be used. Not long after, magic symbols began to fly even in the open space in the living room. Row by row, column by column, characters glowing with gold, silver, and blue light excited each other, making the living room look strangely bright. Gretel listened for 2 minutes and was completely confused. Standing by the side, I modified the silent phantom according to the teacher or Mr. Jin Long's requirements, completely reducing it to an emotionless three-dimensional projector. The Golden Dragon's intuition and calculation ability are very strong, but it seems that the legendary mage's calculation power seems to be more powerful. After discussing for a long time, Golden Dragon Diamond wiped out all the light and shadow in the living room with a wave of his hand. Forget it, let's not discuss this anymore. Where is Cyrilla? Where is our little princess Yuehui? Why hasn't she come back yet? Little Greet, where did you hide her? Just now, he shook hands with me as an equal, and now he has become little Gretel. Gretel silently cursed, glanced at the sunset outside the window, and then pointed towards the top of the mountain. Working at the Star Dome. He should be back soon, right? Of course, it is also possible not to come back and just stay there. Anyway, you can eat and sleep in the Star Dome, you can order, and someone will brush your scales. The place is big, you can sleep in your true form, and more importantly, you can sleep on a pile of gold coins. Although according to Cyrilla, the current pile of gold coins is still small and can only fit one of her front paws. Still working. Jin Long muttered a little dissatisfiedly. Hey, the little princess of the Liu Guang shining family. During the party, how many young and adult dragons were circling around and asking for anything with a wave of their paws, so why do they want to work for humans? But of course, whatever the little princess does is right, and whatever the little princess wants to do is okay. He looked out in the direction of Gretel's finger. On top of that mountain? Can I go take a look? Great. I'm back. What's delicious today? A clear and crisp voice came from downstairs. Followed by a series of dense footsteps, Miss Yinlong popped up from the door of the living room. Gretel, Uncle Diamond. When did you come? She rushed into the room in 3 steps at a time, took it seriously, and saluted the Lord of Thunder. Then he spread his hands, and Bai Shengsheng stretched his palm directly in front of Jin Long, with a matter-of-fact expression. Uncle Diamond. Gift. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 735. Jin Long shrugged, muttered something under his breath, and reached out to grab the pearl on the corner of his robe. Dragons of the same level do not give each other gifts. If you want to dig out some gold and silver jewelry from the dragon's hands, it is equivalent to finding the rhythm of a fight. But, little princess. As a golden dragon in its prime, he is quite good at that. Think of it as a way to bring the young people in the family, the male dragons who have just grown up, and the dragons in middle adulthood, to get closer to the little princess, and they are all profitable. But, this little mage in front of me? Diamond glanced at Gretel and then at the Lord of Thunder. He changed the direction of his palms, stretched them into his arms, and rubbed them vigorously. Here, take it. What the hell is this? Isn't this a mud ball you rub on your skin? Greet looked at the pebbles in the golden dragon's palm warily, hesitating whether to stop Cyrilla. The silver dragon girl already screamed happily and grabbed her lucky stone. Uncle Diamond, you are so kind. Lucky stone, the golden dragon can give a gemstone the power to make people lucky by touching it. Generally speaking, the golden dragon will embed it in the skin and carry it with him. Of course, if the golden dragon likes other creatures, it can also be given to them. Cyrilla happily grabbed the lucky stone, stood next to the golden dragon, and asked questions. The Lord of Thunder sat leisurely beside him, watching the interaction between the two dragons. After a while, he stood up and expressed that he wanted to return to the Tower of Babel. The golden dragon Diamond immediately followed, and Cyrilla followed suit and saw him off. When he walked out of the door, he leaned against the doorframe, flipped his hand, and the small lucky stone fell silently into Greet's pocket. Diamond. Don't think I didn't notice it. Based on my perception, I know all the little things you do behind my back. Forget it, just pretend you didn't see it. When Descartes turned around and wanted to ask for a gift for his little apprentice, he told him that the little guy had already got it. Also, tell the young people in the family that they will not come close to the little princess Yuehui for 10 years, no, 20 years. The dragons and humans are so close that they are even willing to give away precious stones. It is probably impossible to separate them in 1, 2, 3, or 5 years. Even if we are separated, we will never forget that human being immediately. This is him, Diamond, a golden dragon who often wanders around a human world, with many years of valuable experience. Of course, looking further ahead, time is always on the side of the dragon clan. After all, as long as the dragon clan does not die in an accident, it is not a problem to live for 600, 800, or 1000 years. And what about humans? As long as he doesn't become a legend, he can only occupy a short period of time in the dragon clan's life. By the way, is it possible for this little guy to become a legend? Diamond narrowed his eyes slightly. Looking back, Gretel was standing at the door of the mage tower, gesticulating and explaining something to the little princess Yuehui. The setting sun shone on him, as if his whole body was coated with a layer of gold. This child has light all over him, he murmured. Next to him, the Lord of Thunder paused and looked back. What light? He has read every paper that Gretel submitted. That little silver dragon can see infrared ultraviolet rays and X-rays with the naked eye. It seems that it can also see another new type of ray. You can see it with the naked eye. Yes, what kind of light is it? He swiped his magic once and again, the monocle crackling slightly. After several attempts in a row, I couldn't figure out the reason, so I finally asked. What light? The golden dragon stared deeply at the mage tower, and his eyes turned into vertical pupils unknowingly. After a long while, he replied in a low voice. The will of the world. In other words, the attention and affection of the will of the world. A particularly bright light. Bright, but not dazzling, warm and soft, making people feel happy just by looking at it. He has seen this kind of light in more than one person. Those kings who rose up with their swords drawn, those heroes who turned the tide. Researchers who have made major new inventions and discoveries that have pushed the world forward. Their progress always seems to be smooth. Researchers, especially spellcasters, have reported that more than one person was exposed to strange energy during the advancement process. After extensive research, this energy was interpreted as the love of the world's will. In other words, it is the unique attention and reward the world will pays to those who promote its progress. The Lord of Thunder nodded silently and strode forward. It is natural for a child like Gretel to be favored by the will of the world, however, no matter how favored he is, he must be able to grow up on his own. A magician who is only at level 7 still has a long way to go to become a legend. Greet, can you do it? Greet himself didn't think about the legend. Food must be eaten one bite at a time, and the road must be walked step by step. The hospital was not built in a day, and the entire medical system was not built in a day. His top priority now is to tell Sarah a story. Recently, I was dealing with the Great Famine, and took them to test the fertilizer. After the test was completed, the materials and papers were handed in, and everything will be fine. It's not that I won't take you with me. It's just a small project, very short, and it's dirty and smelly when dealing with manure. I'll just go and forget it. Why would I bring you along? Besides. As he spoke, he saw Sarah's eyelids drooping. Gretel quickly shut up and waited for a moment. Sarah was startled and opened her eyes. Where's down there? Where's down there? Oh, there is another difficult case recently, but the patient has not been sent yet. It is currently in the pre-research stage. It's early. With the testing methods, animal experiments, everything added up, I estimate that it will take at least a year. I will definitely call you when the time comes. Having said this, Miss Yinlong yawned again. Gretchen said. Cyrilla, what's wrong with you? I'm sleepy, I think I'm going to sleep. When he saw it, Cyrilla stopped trying to hide it and yawned happily, with tears splattering in the corners of her eyes. Normally it won't happen so soon, but I just feel like I'm going to sleep. Well, Greet, is there any place nearby where I can sleep? It should last for a year and a half. Gretel started scratching his scalp. Hibernation is different from sleeping. Dragon Clan's hibernation means that it is about to advance and requires a longer period of sleep to adjust the state and allow the body to grow and develop again. Sarah has just entered adolescence, and it is said that she still has at least 30 or 40 years before she reaches the adult dragon stage. Is she going to sleep now? Well, it can only be said that Miss Yinlong was by his side, studying medical skills, doing intensive treatment, and tossing around with X-rays and gamma rays. Accumulating enough has greatly promoted her growth. A dragon that works hard on research will always advance faster than a dragon that eats and sleeps every day. This is natural. But where can I find a place for her to sleep? Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to Ada Cao Wo Chow and for the reward of 100 book coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 736. It's a big deal for Cyrilla to go dormant, and it's worth everyone to mobilize and figure out a solution together. At the dinner table that night, everyone worked together and came up with ideas. Is there any ready-made mine or abandoned mine around here? Just plug the hole, there is no need to dig it. Mr. Norwood tried to remember. Before Cyrilla could deny it, Gretel was the first to shake his head. I'm afraid not. Silver dragons like to live in high mountains. The environment where the silver dragon sleeps should be similar to the dragon's nest. Greet had seen the dragon's nest of Cyrilla's aunt, Lady of Glory Scale, on a hidden mountaintop, with the sea looking out from the door. It is said that you can also weave a nest out of white clouds, but unfortunately, Gretel does not have this ability. Mr. Norwood retreated. Aurora raised her hand for the second time. High mountains are convenient. Just find a higher mountain and dig now. There are many hills to the east and north of Igor Peak. If necessary, I will dig with you. Fireball plus frost will blast the rock wall the fastest. Greet continued to shake his head. This is an advanced step, not just finding a place to sleep. It needs to be energy rich, right? He looked at Cyrilla. The silver dragon girl smiled gratefully at Aurora and nodded vigorously. It is best if it is rich in energy. The richer the energy, the smoother the advancement. It would be best if there is a magic crystal mine or something. Otherwise, is there an iceberg? Rich in energy, then the only one is the Mage Tower. Lin An pondered. Ask Moss, can you temporarily merge several meditation rooms into one? Anyway, we have been busy recently. We will not be in the Mage Tower for a long time. Just let Cyrilla stay in it and sleep. Brother Lin, you guys, Greet was surprised. Even Cyrilla suppressed a yawn, opened her eyes wide, and stared at Master Lin. Where are you going? I'm going out for an adventure. Lin smiled faintly and glanced at Gretel. Forgot. When I advanced to level 7, I was going to go out and explore. It wasn't you, but you were suddenly invited to the royal capital by the Queen, so I had to look after your home for a while. Now that you're back, you probably won't be there in a year or two. Leave, I'm just going for a walk. Ah. Greet's left face reads reluctant and the right face reads don't leave. But there was no way. Lin An's previous path was to travel and fight outside all the time, and only come back to study occasionally. Maybe, he is going to take this path. How about you? He asked the other two. Master Norwood waved his hand. What kind of fertilizer test did you do? It's so busy with large-scale retesting, calculating totals, and looking for suitable substitutes. My 2 apprentices and I were arrested, and we were about to go away. What? I don't even know when I'll be back. Well, there is nothing we can do about this. Preparations for the Great Famine have not yet been fully launched, and some matters are still in the confidentiality stage. Now that Master Norwood and his team are involved, they will definitely be caught doing their work. Aurora followed soon after. The young mage, who had never left the laboratory since arriving in Nevis, looked aggrieved. The teacher said that there is a big project to be done, and all magicians in the direction of lightning will be recruited. It is estimated that they will set off in a few days. Well, there's nothing we can do about it if we call for help. Gretel retracted his thoughts and seriously considered Lin's proposal. After all, energy is more important than scenery. As a pragmatic mage, I always feel that with energy, everything is possible. But... He looked around the restaurant and then looked at Cyrilla. How big will you be after you advance? Is it enough for you to sleep when the first floor of the Mage Tower is opened? Under the gaze of everyone, Cyrilla hesitated for a while. Then, she shook her head very slowly. Maybe not enough. When I grow to adulthood, my body length will be 20 to 25 meters. In addition to the torso, I will also have a 9 to 11 meter long tail. Even if the neck and tail are coiled. Then don't think about this first. Gretel immediately agreed. The dormant nest should allow her to stretch out comfortably instead of curling up aggrievedly. I have to curl up in a ball to sleep, it's so painful. In addition to being spacious, it also needs to be quiet, private, and safe. Is it too late for him to rent the Star Dome now and not allow people to enter or exit it for a year and a half? Forget it, even if he had time, he couldn't afford to rent it. Damn it, poor people are not suitable for raising dragons. Greet scratched his head painfully. Cyrilla, wait a minute, I'll go find the teacher and ask if there's a place nearby that's suitable for you to sleep. Gretel went to see the teacher the next day, but to no avail. I don't know whether the teacher went shopping with Mr. Jinlong or went on some mission, but he wasn't here anyway. I went to see the teacher on the 3rd day, but he was still not there. Not only was he absent, but senior brother Baebo and senior sister Philby also disappeared with them. On the 375th floor of the Tower of Babel, most of the laboratories of the brothers and sisters were emptied. Greet. So who should I ask this question? Do you want to ask other people's legends? I wonder which legend is willing to answer his questions. Not to mention this, it is not that easy to ask to see the legendary mage. Greet, don't bother that night. Seeing Greet looking embarrassed and not knowing how to speak, Sirara comforted him very considerately. In the worst case, I'll go home and sleep. I'll just take a nap. The conditions at home are always suitable. I'll come back to you when I wake up. Don't want. Let's think of another solution. Wizard Norwood, Lin, and Aurora objected at the same time. Are you kidding me? God knows when Miss Yinlong will come back. Maybe she felt that Greet's place was not fun as soon as she slept, so she didn't come back. Maybe she wanted to go shopping somewhere else first? Maybe, some dragon from another family came to visit her and then traveled somewhere else? The dragon's concept of time is very different from that of humans. We must not place our hopes on "I'll come back to you when I wake up." I'll ask the teacher. Lin slapped her chest. His teacher, Archmage Edgar, can go directly to the immortal. If that doesn't work, let's see if there is a nearby hilltop that is easy to dig out and is rich in magic crystals. Send out 100,000 skeleton soldiers to dig a dragon's nest for Cyrilla overnight. Anyway, Gretel's needs always have priority with the immortal. I'll also ask the jury. Gretel made up his mind. If that doesn't work, should I rent an airship for her? I don't know how big the Parliament's airship is at its maximum, or whether it is as big as a Zeppelin. In my impression, the Zeppelin airship in the previous life was more than 200 meters long at most, which was more than enough to hold Cyrilla's true body. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 737. Gretel successfully found the jury. Old Sam's hair was messy and he stared at his red eyes as he weakly greeted him. What new discoveries have been made recently? Or are there any projects to apply for? Your paper has not been verified yet, and you have to wait for 2 more days. Greet glanced at his desk. On the desk, which was wide and large, at least 2 meters by 1 meter, there were at least 7 or 8 stacks of documents, squeezing old Sam into a row between his 2 arms. 1 red and 1 black. In the 2 ink bottles, there were several quills stuck upside down, and the feathers were ravaged. There is a map on the side, with red, blue, and black circles on it, and the arrows are drawn in a completely horrible way. Can I help you? Greet couldn't bear to see it. Old Sam rubbed his eyes and was determined to answer him. No need, you can't help, it's all a grind now, we have to push it through bit by bit. During the review meeting, I was so busy that my feet were on my back. Elderwood regarded the project as completed and paid the money as scheduled. The god of nature order in several other areas urgently called for a halt. Change the plan, send the paper, temporarily assign a few groups of transformation magicians, and ask them to do repeated verification together. After planting a crop of grain, how much nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are needed to replenish the lost fertility of the soil? This is just a branch project in a larger project. In addition, the council will also need to consider grain ratio. How much wheat to plant? How much barley? How much oats? How many beans, peas, and lentils? How many pumpkins, potatoes, and beets? By the way, do you want to plant some pasture? Those livestock, especially the big livestock, cannot just watch them starve to death. How big is the fertilizer gap? How to make it up, how long does it take to make it up, and where to make it up? If these problems involving numbers and calculations can be solved with a lot of manpower, then problems involving people's hearts cannot be solved purely by relying on statistics and calculations. For example, how to communicate with nobles across the country. Although the Lord of Thunder and the Golden Dragon came forward to convince them, the Great Famine is coming, we must use all means, including magic means, to stock up on food this year. However, will there be people who are unwilling to follow suit to stock up on food in order to annex the land? If there was such a noble, would they use violent means to threaten them, or would they secretly hoard food and use it to seduce the people in their territory? What should I do if it's too far away and I can't seduce him? Watching people starve to death? If you starve to death, your national strength will be damaged. Or, discuss with the nature god, god of war temple, spring temple, and mage towers in various places, and work hard to farm and collect grain now. The nobles may not care about the life and death of their subjects, but the temple still wants faith. There are so many problems, and it can even be said that the situation is different in every region and every noble. The experience of the south may not necessarily apply to the north, and the experience of Neva certainly does not apply to the royal capital. It requires extra patience and meticulous work. During this time, the 8 great magicians of the jury, along with their assistants and administrative staff, spent all their time except eating and sleeping. You don't need to worry about these things. Old Sam rubbed his forehead tiredly. Tell me, what's the matter? The Lord of Thunder has to leave for a while. If you have anything to do, just tell us directly and we will help you with whatever we can. Where are you going, teacher? Gretel blurted out. Old Sam glanced at him with red eyes. The Lord of Thunder didn't tell you, then you don't need to ask. Anyway, it shouldn't be dangerous. By the way, what exactly is going on? That's right, Cyrilla is going to sleep recently. Gretel explained the situation in detail. Sure enough, it was right to ask the judges. Old Sam readily pointed the way. Dragon Nest? Yes. The council has a place to entertain dragon friends. It's on the north slope of Igor Peak, on the cliff facing the ocean. It's a big place, with good scenery, plenty of energy, tranquility, and safety. How many months do you want to rent it? Rent? Gretel was shocked. What, Dragon's Nest is for rent? What else? Old Sam was so sleepy that he almost fell over, so he was happy to insult him with a few words to refresh himself. He took a deep sip of black coffee, frowning in pain, and when he spoke, brown spittle flew everywhere. Have you ever seen what facilities in the Parliament can be used for free? You don't need to buy a ticket for the small train going up and down the mountain. The usage fee for the big magic circle in the Star Dome is not deducted from the project funds. Why is Dragon's Nest an exception? Aren't you here to entertain friends? Greet asked bravely. Why do you still need to charge money? Generally speaking, we only charge a preferential price. Not much, just 500 gold coins a day. Just. Greet felt like he was struck by a thunderbolt on the head. 500 gold coins a day, 15,000 gold coins a month. Cyrilla slept for half a year, and 90,000 gold coins went out. Burning down a mobile tower spirit in half a year. It's not enough, I need to post some more money. It's not much. It's just a threshold to prevent dragons from coming in for no reason, Old Sam patiently explained to him. The area of a dragon's lair is more than 100 rooms if it is built into a hotel. The best hotel in Nevis can cost more than 10 gold coins a day, right? But that's different, Gretel tried to argue. The hotel has furniture, decoration, staff services, and may also include food and beverage expenses. What's in the dragon's nest? Bear. I don't believe you dare to pile up gold coins in the dragon's nest. Needless to say, if it is piled up, even if the gold coins are spread out on the floor, you still have to worry about being snatched away by the dragons. The dragons who come to live in the dragon nest of Igor Peak are all friends of the council. Generally speaking, they come to help with projects, old Sam answered confidently. The accommodation fee is paid by the remuneration for the work, or the magician who invited him will naturally be deducted from the project funds. Generally speaking, magicians who are qualified to invite dragons are legendary or quasi-legendary, and are at least level 15 or above. The accommodation fee is nothing to them. They can just pay it out for any item. Anyway, it's just the left hand turning to the right hand, just making accounts. The council channeled excess energy into the dragon's lair and got a dragon to permanently reside on Igor Peak, which was a very cost-effective deal. Of course, when we set this price, we didn't consider that there were people like Gretel, a mere level 7 mage who couldn't afford the dragon lair. Cough. Oh, why don't you go back and talk to Miss Silver Dragon? Old Sam covered his mouth and yawned. Obviously, the strong cup of coffee just now did not boost his spirits. After all, she wants to live by herself. Maybe she can afford it? It doesn't matter if she doesn't want to pay. You can talk to the prophecy department to extend the time of working in the Star Dome. We also have other preferential policies. Greet returned sadly and went to Cyrilla to convey the result. Alas, Alexander, I am still too poor. I can't even afford to support Sarah. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 738. With a crash, Miss Silver Dragon's pearls and gems poured out once again, pouring all over the table. Sarah picked up a pearl with her slender fingers, and then picked up a ruby. Her little face wrinkled up, as if these jewels were about to leave her immediately. This one is worth 50 gold coins, this one is worth 100 gold coins, this one is very small and the color is not good. It should be worth 20 gold coins at most. Oh, why should I use them to make a skirt? 500 gold coins a day is really too expensive. I have only earned 20,000 gold coins in the Star Dome for such a long time, right? There is still a shortfall of 70,000, and these jewels must be used to fill it. My bed of gold coins is gone, my rubies, my sapphires, my diamonds, my pearls are also gone. It's okay, I can afford it. Gretel tried to comfort her. It's only 70,000 gold coins. If I write a few more papers and sell a few more patents, I should be able to get enough. Now, if I use that mobile tower spirit as a mortgage loan, the council will probably not deny me the loan. Anyway, it's an internal turnover. How is that possible? Cyrilla suddenly raised her head to look at him, her silver blue eyes widened and her pupils narrowed a bit. You don't have much money. You still owe money. How can you spend such a huge sum of money? I'll find a way on my own. Oh, otherwise I'd better go home and live. She was crestfallen, and the tips of her ears drooped. Gretel didn't know how the elf ears created by the transfiguration spell drooped. But fortunately, he has other plans. If you don't spend what's mine, don't spend what's mine. How about we think of another way? I heard from Archmage Sam that the accommodation costs for the Dragon's Nest are usually paid by magicians who are working on projects with the Dragon Clan. Let's go and talk to Xin Chen. Let's discuss it in the dome. The weather turns cloudy in Cyrilla. The senior brother is not here, and neither is the second senior sister. No one came forward to support him, but fortunately Star Dome was very sincere, and soon a level 16 Archmage came forward to contact him. This Archmage's face is round and fair, and it seems that he has been lacking sunshine all year round, or in other words, his day and night are reversed all year round. He sleeps during the day and looks at the stars at night. He had deep dark circles under his eyes, walked unsteadily, and looked like he was low on energy and blood and was about to be drained out. Gretel glanced at him and couldn't help but wonder, what's going on with this guy? I got sick. Still too tired. Or has the recent frequent activation of the prophecy circle placed too great a burden on him? Even though he looked weak, the Archmage still had a smile on his face. Speak steadily and slowly. Miss, you want to live in the dragon's nest? Do you want the Star Dome to pay in advance? It's easy to negotiate. Sirara immediately breathed a sigh of relief. The Archmage lost no time in taking out a contract. Mrs. salary for working in the Star Dome is 200 gold coins per day. If you need to pay half a year in advance, you only need to sign a work contract and promise to work in the Star Dome for the next 2.5 years. We will contact you immediately. 2.5 years. Sirara's eyes immediately widened. 2.5 years, that's a long, long time. She has been participating in research at the Star Dome for only a few months so far. She will have to lie down for 2.5 years, and moss will grow on her body. It sounds very boring. She wants to play everywhere, she wants to accompany Gretel in experiments, and she wants to see all kinds of novel cases and treatments. She doesn't want to be trapped in the Star Dome for 2.5 years. I do not want. When the words came to his mouth, he glanced at Greet and was swallowed back by Miss Silver Dragon. If she doesn't agree, Gretel will have to pay. Spending such a large amount of money will be a heavy burden on him. Otherwise, just agree. She hesitated, neither agreeing nor rejecting, and froze in place. Greet patted the back of her hand, raised her head and said, I think 2.5 years is unfair. Cyrilla is sleeping this time in order to advance and transform. After the advancement, her abilities will increase and she should receive better treatment. You hire a 13th level magician, and a 15th level magician. Do top magicians get the same reward? The Archmage leaned back on his chair, smiled slightly, and wrinkles gathered at the corners of his eyes. He knocked on the armrest of the chair casually. This is not unreasonable. However, it is still unknown whether the young lady will be able to advance to an adult dragon after she wakes up from her sleep. It is also not certain to what extent her abilities will increase after the advancement. But 2.5 years is still too long, Greet said leisurely. Even for the Dragon Clan, lying down in the Star Dome for 2.5 years, doing nothing but pressing buttons every day, is very boring. Rather than waste this time, Sarah might as well go home and sleep. Anyway, it only takes a long time to go back and forth. A month or two. Is this a threat? By the way, if you are willing to let her go home, why would you bring her to negotiate a contract? The Archmage sneered and added slowly. In this way, we can add a sentence to the contract that 2.5 years is a tentative period. After she wakes up, she evaluates the scope of her abilities and then re-signs the contract. Okay. Sounds like it's fair, and you don't have to touch her gold coin bed, which is the most important thing. Sirara waited and nudged Gretel with her elbow. Greet did not agree immediately, but took the parchment, held it in his hand and folded it. Let's think about it again, okay? If you think it's okay, come back and sign the contract. When the time comes to re-sign the contract, what if they refuse to re-sign? What if the estimate is too low? When signing a contract or making a deal, you must shop around. There is no such thing as signing a contract after just negotiating with one company. Sirara followed him out of the sphere of influence of the prophecy system, took the elevator, and went all the way down. The management of Dragon's Nest is, miraculously, managed by the Conjuration Department. Gretel irresponsibly guessed that maybe the conjuration system is best at teleportation spells. From time to time, they open a portal or something, and from time to time they open a door to another world. Their demand for entertaining visitors from afar is the strongest. But no matter what, the magician in charge of managing the Dragon's Nest took them to see the room. Flying down from the north slope of Igor Peak, landing 70 or 80 meters, and then using magic to brush open the mountain wall. Turn the corner and enter the door. The moment she stepped into the dragon's lair, Cyrilla wrinkled her nose and felt a little disappointed. There's nothing. No gold coins, no gems, just stone floors and stone walls. How can we entertain a dragon like this? No sincerity at all. The bare stone floor is uncomfortable to look at, and it will definitely be even more uncomfortable to lie down on. Well, miss, if you want a decorated room, you need to pay extra. The magician in charge of the dragon's nest answered fluently. According to the Parliament's loan interest rate, it is 10,000 gold coins with an annual interest rate of 8%. How many gold coins do you need to pave the ground? Gretel turned his face silently. This is so profitable. We must try our best to dig out gold coins from the pockets of the dragons. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 739. Cyrilla walked around the Dragon's Nest Hotel with her hands behind her back. I have to say that this Dragon's Nest is really good. The area is large enough, about the size of 2 basketball courts put together, allowing Cyrilla to roll around comfortably after revealing her original form. The floor height is high enough, visually it is above 3 floors. Even if you stand on the ground in dragon shape and straighten your neck, you can't touch the ceiling. The ground is flat, the stones are clean and smooth, there is no moss, and there are no bugs running around. Standing at the door, the sea breeze blows in your face, and the mountains are in sight. Above the head is the mysterious Lock of Igor Peak, which is the Tower of Babel and 8 auxiliary towers. It is the gathering place for Nevis's most high-end combat power. There are thousands of cliffs standing at your feet. Unless your brain is burned out, no one will climb the mountain from here. Moreover, the location of the Dragon Nest Hotel is just below the Tower of Babel. The energy running through Igor's mystery lock can maintain the elemental concentration of the dragon nest. Open, comfortable, quiet and safe. Such a location and such conditions are only sold for 500 gold coins a night. Gretel is absolutely sure that it is really a friendly price. It's a pity that I can't afford the friendship price, so I still have to work hard to negotiate a discount. Gretel glanced at Cyrilla and saw that she was still frowning, wondering whether to take out a loan to make a bed, and then turned to the magician who was leading the way. Are there many dragons staying here? That's definitely not much. The magician, or, rather, the manager of the Dragon's Nest Hotel, spread out his hands. How can dragons be so easy to meet? Why do they come here so often? Have you seen it? Greet moved closer to him curiously. I just walked around and found that the ground was flat and smooth, with no scratch marks from the dragon's claws or scratches from the dragon's scales. As for the remaining dragon power and so on, I'm sorry, although Gretel feels that his perception has been strengthened, it is not yet strong enough. It seems unlikely that every time a dragon moves in, the council sends people to repair it with turn mud into stone and fossils into mud. These two spells are of very high level, so repairing such a large area will cost a lot of money. If you follow the repairs every day, you might as well ask a few masons to chisel the stones during regular renovations. I haven't seen it. Sure enough, the manager of the Dragon Nest Hotel gave a negative answer. I have been in charge of this area for 10 years, and I have never seen one before. Looking at the record book, the last time a dragon came to live was 50 or 60 years ago, right? So this is more of a guest house than a commercial hotel? Don't live with this income, celebrate the new year with it, or celebrate the new year without it. Gretel felt confident. Next, when he made the request, he became more determined. Can it be cheaper? Or are there any conditions for reduction or exemption? After all, Cyrilla is going to be dormant and live for a year and a half. His lowered figure. If he can't afford it, he will have to go home and sleep. You usually stay in hotels, and there are discounts for long-term stays, right? In a 5-star hotel in my previous life, if I stayed for more than a month, I could negotiate a discount with the hotel. The Conjuration magician, or rather, the manager of the Dragon's Nest, looked at him in surprise, and then looked Sarah up and down. Does she live there? Is such a beautiful little beauty living there? Brother, it's okay. He took advantage of Cyrilla turning her head to admire the wall, and quickly gave Gretel a thumbs up. Then, he took out his notebook and flipped through it. If you say that, I'll check it out for you. Well, I found it, 10% off for more than 100 days, and 20% off for more than half a year. This discount is not huge. Greet had vaguely heard of long-term stay discounts, which can be discounted by more than half. If the group company comes to negotiate the price, it can even be discounted by 30%. But it is a good thing that the other party is willing to make concessions. He didn't bother with the amount, and just made a troubled expression. Are there any other items that can be discounted? I just upgraded to level 7, so money is tight. Do you want to support a dragon on your own? The manager of Dragon's Nest looked at Gretel with even more admiration. He searched his mind, thought over the resources at his disposal, and gave Gretel an idea. Is she going to sleep and advance? Will she shed her scales during the advancement process? The council collects various materials related to dragons at a high price. Selling a few of the unwanted scales should be enough. All right. Whether it will shed its scales or not, Gretel really doesn't know. Sarah slept in her elf form in the mage tower. Invisible servants made the bed, and she didn't report any hair or scale loss. But selling scales is definitely not allowed. Who knows who will get the scales sold, and who knows what they will be used for? What if it is used to curse? In short, scales, nails, teeth, blood, these body parts must not leak out at all. Isn't this bad? He shook his head firmly. Although I believe in the council, it would be bad if the scales leak out a little and affect her safety. Hey, please help, do you have any other plans? Mr. Manager is in trouble. Fortunately, the council was hungry for dragons, and there was a list of tasks hanging there all year round. He quickly recommended the second one. Then, how about letting the council observe her advancement? I'll introduce you to a magician and you can talk about it yourself. He activated the communication weapon, and soon, a small door opened deep in the dragon's lair, and a 16th level great magician hurriedly walked out. He stared at Cyrilla, his eyes immediately burst into light, and he teleported in front of them. Hello, I am Josh Pennington from the Conjuration Department. Is this the lady who wants to advance into sleep? He took turns shaking hands with Greet and Sarah, and got straight to the point. If you are willing to let me observe the advancement process, lead the team every day, and measure the magic fluctuations around you in real time, I will bear the cost of the dragon nest. How about paying you 100 gold coins a day? You still have money to sleep with? Sarah was a little happy. But when she thought about how she was sleeping, a group of magicians gathered around her to measure this and that. She shuddered and shook her head vigorously. No. With so many people buzzing around, I won't be able to sleep well. Then what about setting up the instruments in advance? Archmage Pennington said in obvious confusion. Seeing Sarah's denial, he immediately took a step back and understood the essence of the negotiation. We will not come in to disturb you. We will set up measuring instruments in the dragon's nest in advance and put in a few mystical eyes to observe the situation in real time. As long as you are willing to agree to this, the cost of the dragon's nest will still be borne by us and you don't need to worry about it. This seems okay? Sarah looked at Gretel inquiringly. In short, it is good if she is not allowed to pay, and it is great if she can keep her bed of gold coins. Otherwise, promise him. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 740. Greed was not satisfied with the plan that Sirara was satisfied with. Why, there are a bunch of cameras installed in a girl's bedroom, and a large group of people are watching day and night. It makes my hair stand on end just thinking about it. We can talk about detecting magic fluctuations, but can we not use the mystical eye? He tried to negotiate terms. I don't think the Dragon Clan would like their children to be watched all the time while they are sleeping. Can't you release the secret eye? Archmage Pennington was in a bit of a dilemma. However, we need to observe and measure. How the dragon's size grows during the advancement process of sleeping is very important to us. Without mystical eyes, how can we observe it? You can take other methods. Gretel stood in front of Sirara and made serious suggestions. For example, put a few more magic circles around, emit light regularly, and see if the other side receives it. If a row of receiving points used to be able to receive it, but now it can't, does it mean that the body has grown a bit? Is it more accurate than mystical eye observation? Archmage Pennington certainly knows this method, but isn't it costly? He looked at Gretel, then at Sirala, and decided to get a little more benefit. Then you have to allow us to install a few more magic circles. In order to prevent the lady from moving her position unconsciously while sleeping, resulting in inaccurate measurement results. You were rolling around in your sleep. Sirala's cheeks turned red and she sprayed it back. Greet almost laughed out loud. With such a reaction, it seems that when Sirala returns to her dragon shape and sleeps, she will roll all over the floor, from the head to the end of the bed, and from lying upright to lying sideways. He patted Sirala and signaled Miss Silver Dragon to calm down. Then, continue to bargain with the Archmage. It doesn't matter if you install a few more magic arrays. However, in order to avoid disturbing Sirala's advancement, we hope that the fluctuations in the magic array can be as small as possible and use non-magical detection methods as the main method. Is that okay? It's possible, but it's very expensive. If disturbing her causes the advancement to go wrong, the data you observe will be inaccurate, right? Then can we install something else? For example, install some load-bearing devices on the ground to measure the lady's weight in the advanced state in real time. We have covered all the meals during this period. Gretel didn't dare to agree rashly. The main thing is that a girl's weight is always a secret. Sirara is a silver dragon, and Greet can't say whether she wants to keep her weight in dragon form a secret. He looked at Sirala inquiringly. What do you say? What kind of load-bearing device is it? Sirala was more concerned about this. Archmage Pennington quickly replied. It's a very big flat plate, connected together, with a smooth metal plate on the surface. If Miss has requested, you can also add a layer of stone chips to the metal plate, which is rough and non-slip, making it more comfortable to lie down. Sirara doesn't care about slip resistance. The modification direction she proposed was something that even Gretel had not thought of. Can all metal plates be made into gold? Archmage Pennington. Mr. Dragon Nest Manager. Gretel. This, Miss, even if you are a silver dragon, the council's money is not so squandered. Use gold to make metal plates and cover the floor of the dragon's lair. Do you know how much gold it costs? 100,000 gold coins are not enough. Before Master Pennington could fall out or complain, Gretel promptly proposed a reconciliation plan. Is it okay to paint the surface of the metal plate gold? Or apply gold foil? Is it enough to look like it is made of gold? Alas, he is still so poor. When you have money in the future, you must let Sirala use gold coins to make a bed. In any case, the two parties reached an agreement on the fees and facilities of the Dragon's Nest Hotel. It takes time to install the observation facilities, and it takes time to gild or paint the load-bearing panels. Sirara then dragged Gretel and returned to the Star Dome to say something, and then, "Eat. I want to eat. I want to have a banquet." She rushed back to the Mage Tower and shouted to Lin En and others. "You will be leaving in a few days. When I wake up, I don't know when we can see you again. We must have a party. Let's have a good meal together." In order to bid farewell to Lin En, to send off Master Norwood and Aurora to work as coolies, and to give Cyrilla a full meal before going to bed, the people in the Mage Tower gathered together again. And this time, Bernard once again became the main force. "Boss. How many lambs are you roasting?" 10. Greed held his forehead. "A dragon, a young silver dragon. How much food do you want to feed her as her last meal before she falls asleep? It's unrealistic to stuff everything with roasted lamb, and other people will definitely get tired of it. Do it in a variety of ways, absolutely do it in a variety of ways." He rolled up his sleeves and chopped meat with his hands. "Throw the whole pork knuckle into a large pot of water and cook, then chop half of the pork ribs. After chopping, the elbows are almost cooked. Take them out and let them cool, then adjust the sauce. Cane sugar, salt, small shells and small seafood boiled sauce, cloves, star anise, pepper, cinnamon leaves. Pour it into a large pot, bring it to a boil, take a spoonful and taste it." Then, he turned around and called Miss Yinlong. "Cirella, do you like the seasoning? Do you want to add more?" Miss Silver Dragon rushed over. I grabbed a large round spoon and took a sip, swallowing up half the bowl of sauce. He smacked his lips and tilted his head. "It needs to be sweeter. It's not sweet enough. It can't be sweeter now. If it's too sweet, it will burn easily." Gretel shook his head. Seeing Cyrilla pouting, he quickly coaxed her. "When it comes out of the pan, I'll make a sauce with honey and pour it on top alone." Satisfied, Cyrilla jumped up and down to collect her big tuna. While Greed was cooking the sauce for the braised elbow, he mixed the barbecue sauce and spread it on the pork ribs. Wrap the pork ribs and marinate them, put the elbows in the pot, simmer over low heat, and slowly reduce the soup. The spine, tube bones, and large bones are all thrown into the soup pot and cooked. Aurora sat next to her, throwing a freezing ray at a large piece of beef, and then slowly planing it with the wind blade and ice blade, making sure to get dozens of plates of meat. Master Norwood closed his eyes slightly, and the stirring rods in front of him were spinning rapidly, struggling to whip the cream on the iceberg. Lin En directed the golden skeleton to knead the dough, and brush the dough with egg wash. He suddenly turned back and roared. "Mr. Trochka! Don't steal the cream!" "I didn't steal it," the black cat roared back majestically beside the mixing bucket. As if to strengthen his tone, he raised his paw, slapped hard, and smashed a cooked potato. "The chicken is flying and the dog is jumping, the chicken is flying and the dog is jumping." The banquet was prepared in the evening. Everyone sat together, each holding a glass of wine amidst the hot aroma, and shook it hard. To everyone's smooth advancement. Cheers. I have received the background text message. The recommendation will be posted at 2 p.m. tomorrow. The update at noon tomorrow will be moved to 2:05 p.m. Will update 10,000 words tomorrow. Update 10,000 words the day after tomorrow. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geolan 2020. Chapter 741. Cyrilla went to sleep at the Dragon's Nest Hotel. Within 3.5 months, there is no need to expect to wake up from this sleep. Lin went on a trip. The necromancer ran even further. "I'm going to the New World for a tour. I probably won't come back within a year or two. Don't miss me." "What? New World? Gretel almost jumped. Lynn smiled and reassured him. It's just the new world, don't worry. I've already traveled all over the Kingdom of Kent, the Blackgate Peninsula, the Great Wasteland and Iceland, so there's nothing that can touch me anymore. It's time to go to the new world as well. But it's dangerous there, it's also dangerous at sea. Not long after he arrived in Nevis, he knew that the new world was a place for distribution. Unless a magician makes a mistake and is sent away, or has no choice but to accept a mission, no one likes to go there. The sea is much better now. After eating the Golden Fleet, we can have a few years of peace. Lin An smiled relaxedly, patted his arm, and continued to pack things. In the new world, as long as I don't go to the front lines, I'll be safe in the settlements. Going for a walk in the wild will be a bit stressful, and it will also help me advance. Greed had to help him pack his things. Bring clothes for all seasons, bring a fur cloak, bring spiritual potions, bring spell scrolls. Bring this space bag with you too. Gretel simply pulled out his largest space bag, which was issued when he went on a mission to the Dwarf Kingdom. It can hold 1,000 pounds of items and has 150 cubic feet of space. He gave it to Lin directly. Kindness. It's inconvenient to replenish supplies in the new world, and it's a little inconvenient to replenish magic supplies. Bring as much as you can. Don't go away for too long. Can you come back in 2 years? It should be possible, right? Lin An thought about it. Gretel beats the snake with the stick. You must come back within 2 years. If you don't come back, I will go to the new world to find you. Okay, I will definitely come back, Lin An promised in a dumbfounded voice. Next to him, the golden skeleton tapped his cervical vertebrae hard, and at the same time he took off his head and held it in his hand, tapping it down one by one, which was a double guarantee. Do you still want to come to me? Do you still want to come to the new world? For a person like you who has strong research ability but weak combat ability, and is very important to the Parliament, are you sure the Parliament will let you come to the new world? Beautiful thought. Lin set off away with the golden skeleton and black cat. Master Norwood and Aurora also went on their own business trips. Carlos and Anavia, one is basically staying at the Oak Grove Hospital, and the other is staying at the Infectious Diseases Hospital for a long time during this period, that is, sleeping and meditating at night before returning to the Master Tower. All of a sudden, the Mage Tower became quiet. 9 floors above ground and 3 underground floors are empty. Apart from Gretel and Bernard, there was only the sound of the invisible servant cleaning the room. If he wanted to find someone to chat with, he could only find Moss. Fortunately, Moss can talk. Not only can he speak, but he can also look up papers directly from the Parliament's large database and prompt him appropriately. Yes, Greet just knew that Moss has very high authority, which is higher than the authority of his new tower spirit. It will be connected with the tower spirit of the Tower of Babel, Mr. Herman Cruz, and with the Tower of Babel as the center, it will accept and hand over tasks in the White Tower's task system. Will receive messages from other magicians sent to him through the Tower Spirit Network, and remind him to read them in a timely manner. Boss, I have news from you. It was sent by MRS Alva. Please answer it as soon as possible. What's the situation? MRS Alva asked if there were any preliminary results from Count Ostend's project. Moss projects a large area of light and shadow. On the top floor of the Mage Tower, Greet set aside a large white wall for Moss to use as a projector screen. The writing on the wall flew out line by line. Recently, the Parliament has begun to gradually purchase grain from across the strait. The Earl of Ostend relaxed inspections of ships sailing to the Kingdom of Kent and turned a blind eye to the transportation of grain. It can be confirmed that his attitude towards the Parliament has gradually become friendly. However, this attitude alarmed the Bishop of Ostend. The bishop led the Knights of the Holy See to strictly inspect the passing ships, especially the ships suspected of being bound for the Kingdom of Kent. Currently, 3 ships have been detained, and the captains and sailors on board have been arrested and examined by the tribunal. Among them were sailors originally from the Kingdom of Kent, and even a spy from the Parliament. In order to make Count Ostend further lean towards the Parliament, please ask Master Nordmark to speed up the research progress, or provide a preliminary research result as soon as possible to prove that we are working hard. If she wasn't in a hurry, Mrs. Alva wouldn't want to rush Greet so quickly. It's not that she doesn't know how difficult this disease is and how much effort it takes to cure the patient. I have consulted several medical mages above level 10 before, such as Archmage Bennett and Archmage Morton. Archmage Bennett glanced at it and shook his head. This requires the use of a prayer spell. Small prayer spells may not be effective yet, maybe a large prayer spell is needed. Archmage Morton is stronger than him. After receiving the inquiry from Mrs. Alva, he asked his students to search the parliamentary database and presented a bunch of papers. The patient died on the spot during the process of correcting the skeleton with therapeutic spells. The patient dies within a day or two after curative spells correct the skeleton. The patient becomes paralyzed after healing spells correct the bones. After the therapeutic spell corrected the bones, the patient lost feeling in his legs and was unable to walk. The conclusion is that the risk of this treatment is too high, and unless prayer is used, the success rate is very low. If the patient's identity is important and he can only succeed but not fail, then, forgive him for his limited ability and inability to handle it. Who else did you ask? Master Nordmark. Maybe he can do it? Can you help me ask if I can study? Several archmages tied their hands, and Mrs. Alva had no choice but to urge Greet again. We don't expect immediate results, but at least we can produce something to show that we are working. How can it be so fast? Greet got up with a sigh. These days, he has just made a model using oxygen and created a 3D model that looks similar. As for physical verification, we have to wait. Reply to Mrs. Alva, I am about to start making animal models. If everything goes well, the first batch of models should be successful in 10 days. Archmage Morton want to watch? Welcome, let's discuss it together. At that time, if we show them the animal model or the dissected animal skeleton, it should be able to prove that we have made preliminary results. If the animal bones are difficult to transport, the image can also be extracted, and then the chip storing the image can be sent. And, tell him why he did it. First, there are animal models, and then we study the deformation of bones, muscles, internal organs, and spinal cord from animals. After the research is completed, perform operations on animals and use magic to see what kind of treatment is suitable. Once the animal treatment reaches a certain success rate, clinical experiments can be carried out on patients. You must not go wrong with this step. Of course, you must also remember to write a paper and explain it to Oberstein. No, Count Ostend. Greet doesn't need to worry about how to send the information. He went downstairs, greeted Bernard, rode on Appa, and rushed to Oak Grove Hospital. All experimental animals have been moved there. Carlos, ask them to bring me 10 rats first. Half male, weaned and not yet adults. Archmage Morton led his disciples into Oak Forest Hospital, and when they walked all the way to the backyard, they heard Greet's energetic shouting. Then, he saw 2 skeletons with arms stretched out and rat cages hanging on their bodies, running towards them. Since the completion of the Master's Tower and the launch of public health research, the selection and breeding of experimental animals has been carried out simultaneously, and a group of people have been dedicated to raising animals for him. Now, if you want a mouse, there will be a mouse; if you want a rabbit, there will be a rabbit; if you want a dog, there will be a dog. Except for the lack of rhesus monkeys, large animals such as pigs, cattle, and sheep can be bought in the market. There is basically no shortage of experimental animals. Greet gave an order, and the person in charge of breeding immediately brought him 10 rats. So why use rats? The Archmage was stunned. He has never used a mouse. He used to do medical experiments, usually using rabbits or sheep. Rats are dirty and ferocious and can bite people at any time. What are you doing with this thing? Gretel was carefully taking out a piece of rubber, using mental control to make the rubber stretch and flow, and stick to his hands, becoming a pair of rubber gloves. Hearing this, he turned around and smiled at him. Because of time. I originally wanted to use rabbits or dogs for experiments. But dogs and rabbits take a long time to grow, and there is no way to get results in 10 days. I have no choice but to give in to the mice. Rats lactate for 21 days and mature at 2 months of age. Semi-adult mice are in a period of rapid growth and development, and their spines have great growth potential. If you manipulate them, you can produce obvious results in a relatively short period of time. Archmage Morton has no intention of messing with rubber gloves. He patted his whole body with the cleansing technique, washed his hands, and then threw in a mage armor. Well, I don't believe that an ordinary mouse can bite through a mage's armor. Gretel also lost a mage armor to add another layer of defense to himself. After finishing the defense, he looked back and saw Archmage Morton looking like he was facing a formidable enemy, and couldn't help but smile. Don't worry, these mice have been raised in the laboratory from generation to generation. The mice I am using now are already the 3rd generation. Their parents have stayed in the laboratory since they were born and have never left the laboratory. Plague, rabies, and all kinds of strange germs have nothing to do with them. In the breeding room, a separate magic circle is set up so that not even fleas can come in. The Archmage breathed a sigh of relief. He then gave his apprentice a hard look to cover up his embarrassment. What are you doing standing still? Why don't you help me quickly? The apprentice brought by Archmage Morton is also a level 7 mage, just like Gretel. 3 years ago, he had advanced to level 7 and was helping to research penicillin in his teacher's laboratory. I struggled so hard that I couldn't figure it out. At that time, Gretel was still a 3rd level mage. Now, he has advanced to level 7, and he is exactly the same as him. Being scolded by the teacher, he did not dare to say a word and quickly threw a soothing spell into the mouse cage to calm them down. Then use the hand of the mage to catch one. Ah! The rat escaped. Fortunately, he was still in the cage. He just jumped down and did not escape from the cage. Otherwise, he really couldn't imagine the scene of catching mice all over the ground. The teacher will scold him to death. Gretel shook his sweat beside him. There is also skill in catching rats, it is not just a random grab. He quickly gave guidance. This is not the right way to grasp it. You need to open the tiger's mouth, insert your index finger and thumb into the armpit of the rat, and hold the middle part of the rat's body with the other 3 fingers. Forget it, you should lift the base of its tail. No. Don't press the head. Don't. Pull your tail. With a bang, the rat died. It's okay, let's try again, Gretel quickly encouraged him. Good guy, you are not skilled in catching rats. You are a self-taught person who executes rats by cervical dislocation. Then, he saw the magician wave his hand and cast a petrification spell. Yeah, that's okay too, right? The operation is not enough magic. The single point attack is not accurate enough, but the map cannon can always hit AoE. Gretel discovered that the magicians in this world could always surprise him. He took the rat and fixed it on the experimental table. After removing the petrification spell and throwing away the tranquility spell, Gretel began to scratch his head with his mage's hand, expressing his grief and anger. It is really tiring to perform surgery on rats. The semi-adult rat weighs less than 100 grams and is small. It can be held with the palm of your hand stretched out, but there is no room for the knife or scissors to move in. Pediatric surgeries are not so delicate. If it wasn't to catch up on progress, who would use this thing? 3,600 words. Today's update progress is 1/3. Next chapter at 5 o'clock. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, and ask for all kinds of things. Thanks to the Strong Sea Monster for the 1,500 starting coins reward.